Hi, I was recently contacted by one publisher to try a new game, Rune, which comes in this small box. It only uses a couple of cards, a few meeples, or should I say Rune Masters, and a very thinky gameplay. Essentially, the layout of the cards are rune stones which come in 3 different colors, green, red and blue, and each card has 6 different colors. And what you're trying to do in this game is you're trying to play cards in a way that you have large areas of connected rune cards or rune stones of the same color in order to gain control by placing your rune master. You have 3, each player gets 3 on such areas in order to get victory points. You'll see that victory points are awarded differently because green rune stones award 1, I think it's green, that they give 1, and no, blue give 1 victory point, green give 2 victory points, and red give 3 victory points. I'm going to show you how the game plays. It has a very simple set of rules. It plays very cleverly, and I really giving my opinion up ahead because I highly enjoyed this game. It caught me by surprise. I knew nothing about it, but it has one of the values that I really love in board games with few components, and such of those games are Sprolopolis and Circle the Wagons and Love Letters, of course. And the thing that I love about all of them is that with just a few components, they're trying to give you, and they achieve to give you, a thinky game which will make you scratch your head twice before you place your card or place your Rune Master, because it's very challenging, very clever and very unique. So join me at the table. I'll show you how Rune works, and then we'll come back at the end of this video for my final opinion, which I think I gave it already. Let's see how you play Rune. Rune is an abstract strategy for 2 players, comes in this small box. It plays around 10 minutes, exclusively for 2 players, ages 8 and up. This is a small deck game which has a few components, just a couple of cards, some meeples and 2 tokens. What is Rune about? You have to collect energy from the rune stones to summon Zemilio from another world. Only the one who collects the most mana from the rune stones, which can be depicted on these cards, these are the rune stones as you can see, will be able to complete the ritual and summon Zemilio. You will place these cards in order to create areas of the same color and control them with your rune masters. The rune masters are the respective meeples in each player's color, and the player who controls the most mana will win the game. How we set up the game? We place the starting card in the center of the table. So we start with 1 card at the center of the table in order to begin the game. We shuffle the rune cards and place them on one side of the table as a face-down deck, and then we deal 3 cards to each player so that they can have their own hand. This is the hand of the player. You are the one that you see your hand. The opponent has their own cards, and you keep them face in your hand without showing them to your opponent. So this is, for the purpose of the video, I'm just going to put them face up so that you can see that this is the hand of each of the players. Next, what you do is you deal the 3 respective rune masters for each player. This is the red player with the 3 respective red rune masters, and this is the black player with the 3 respective black rune masters, and we're ready to go. The game is played over a series of turns. This is a very simple game, but it will have you scratching your head and thinking twice before every move, and that's an important aspect of the game, which I love. Players will take turns alternating between them until both players have placed their last rune master, the 3rd and last rune master, and on their turn you go through the following phase in order. So it's this first player's turn, then he plays the specific sequence that I'm going to describe next, then it's the other player's turn, and they alternate turns between them. When it's your turn and you're the active player, you go through this phase in order. First of all, you place a card, and then you draw a card or you place a rune master. Remember, you start with 3 cards in your hand, so you will place a card with the rules that I'm going to explain, and then you have the option to either draw a card from the draw pile or place one of your rune masters on the game board. Let's see how you place cards. The rules are very simple. In this phase you must place a card from your hand, so you cannot skip this step, and each card is divided in 6 sections, as you can see with the starting card, and all of them have one runestone in each of the 6 spots. The same configuration is in all of the cards of the game, which is just a few cards. Each card is divided into these 6 sections, and what you have to do is you have to place a card laid over one or more cards on the table, that they are already in the middle of the table, and then you have to follow the specific rules. You have to cover at least one rune on the cards when you place a new card or cards below the one that you are being placing, and follow at least one of the rules below. So let's say I want to place this card from your hand. I have to cover one or more runestones, but the rules that I have to follow are the 2 that follow. Each rune must match the color of the rune beneath. So for example, I can place that, so I match a green for a green, and that's totally legal. Or I can, for example, place it like that, I match 2 cards, and that's totally legal. Okay? Or if I cannot match the cards, or I don't want to, the other option is to place it so that both of or more all of the new runes that are in place are matching any adjacent runes around. So for example, let me show you in another case. If this was the first card, okay, I can place for example this card on top of it, so I can do this or do that. Yeah, so I cover, what I cover matches what is on top, so this is legal. Okay, or even this is legal, or I can have more. I cannot fully cover a card, obviously, but I can partially cover one or more runestones by matching what I position on top with what is beneath. Or what I can do is, for example, here, when I place a card, I make sure that what is next to it is completely matching the remaining cards. So for example, if I was placing, let me show you a case. In this example, I can either place it so that I overlap, or I can place it so that it doesn't matter what it overlaps, but what is next to each other matches. So I have green next to green and blue next to blue. You see, I didn't match what was beneath, but I'm matching what is adjacent to it. So all these match one to one. I can either place it here. This is legal because green goes on top of green and blue on top of blue, and this is totally legal. Or in this example, I can match it like that. No match beneath the card, but they are matching the adjacent ones already in place. Of course, this is done either or, depending on your strategy, what you're trying to achieve, and you're going to understand just in a few seconds what you're trying to achieve. Essentially, you may not place a card completely on top of another card, covering all 6 runes, and you may not place a card on top of a rune master. Rune masters are going to go into play as the game progresses. That means that in a future turn, even though I could match the runes below, I cannot put a card on top of a rune master because it's considered like a block. Now, the second thing that I do, the first one is I place a card, which is mandatory, and the second thing that I do, which is also mandatory, it's either draw a card from the deck, so I can have 3 or even more, depending on how many cards are left in my hand, in any case, plus 1 card, or place a rune master. This is important. The first step is place a card with the rules that we explained. The second one is either draw a card back or place your rune master. Not both, either or. We understood how you draw cards, you just take 1 card from the draw pile, but how do you place a rune master? To place a rune master, simply place it on top of a rune that is not yet controlled by any other rune master. This rune master now controls the rune stone and all other rune stones in the same area, meaning the same color. An area consists of all connected rune stones of the single color that are vertically and horizontally adjacent to each other. So another example could be that through play, let's say we play this card, then the black player plays this one. I'm just throwing the cards on the table, and then let's say that the third player plays this card. Now, as a second step of my phase, instead of drawing a card back, it's mainly more important that I place a rune master, because now this rune master controls all the blue runes in place. It is important here to note that by placing cards in later turns, you can extend the area. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, but let's say legally in the next turns, maybe you can place more stones, for example, I can do that. No, I can do, let's say that. This is matching blue and blue, so I extend even more the area of the blue runes, which are controlled already by the red rune master. Okay, cool. So this is a sequence. It is very simple. I refresh your memory. You place a card with the rules that we explained, and then you either draw a card or place a rune master. Once any player has placed their last rune master, the game is over. The other player will continue playing until they have also placed their last rune master. However, they can no longer choose to draw a card. They only place the remaining rune masters. Once all rune masters have been placed, the game ends and the players count their points. The player with the most points wins the game. And this is the important thing, because different runestones award different points at the end of the game. You get points for each runestone controlled by your rune master. So you get, for the blue ones, 1 point. So in this case, the red one would get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 for this continuous area, plus any additional one, because this is not the end of the game. For green ones, you get 2 points for each, so 2 and 2, 4 in this case. And for red ones, let's say that we also had some red additional areas. Okay, it's not easy to do this on the fly. You need to think it through, but let's say I'm placing this here. Okay, this would extend even more the red player. Anyway, in areas where you have, let's say, 2 red ones or 3 or more, you get 3 points for each. So blue award 1 point for each blue runestone, green 2 points for each green runestone, that is areas controlled by rune masters, and the red ones award 3 points for each red runestone. So you can understand that it's a lot of depth and strategy in terms of not only placing the correct cards, but which areas you control, which areas you enlarge by placing additional extend by placing additional runestones of that color next to your rune masters. It is a very simple game that lasts only 10 minutes, but back and forth you'll see that you're going to really scratch your head with all the possibilities and different options, so that's really nice. And what on top of that you can add is a small mini expansion, the Grandmaster. During setup you deal 1 dual token to each player, which has a green runestone from one side and a blue runestone from the other side, so each player is going to have 1 and 1. So the following rules that are added are that you can, after placing a rune master, you can place the token on top of a rune adjacent, even diagonally to the rune master, to change the rune color. So if I was placing, for example, this one here, and it's my turn, I can take this one and add it here, so I can extend or even connect potentially more blue runestones and get more points. I only have one option to use it. This is a single token. I can decide which one is more beneficial for me, of course, depending on the flow of the game. And keep in mind that you cannot place cards on top of rune tokens that way. Another important rule that I don't want that it's overseen is that, as you can see, this blue area is now controlled by the red rune master. That means that the blue player cannot control any blue that they are connecting to this area. This is all along the red player, unless you start another blue area where potentially you can grow it more, and that would be legal, for example. Not that one, yeah, let's say that one, and potentially down the road you gain, I don't know, you can put that, and then you can have this blue area. 1, 2, 3, but they should be different from one another, meaning that they are not connecting horizontally or vertically. End of game, you sum up the score, and the player who has the more victory points wins a session of Rune. Extremely simple, very fast, very thinky. I can't emphasize how thinky it is, and this is how you play Rune. Okay, I'll be very frank. I'm not going to go for a short holiday without taking this little box with me, and the reason is very simple, especially for 2 players. It really gives a gameplay that is unique. Very simple rules, very easy gameplay, but yet every placement of a card matters. Every placement of a rune master matters. And this is what I love about these games with just a handful of cards, handful of components, is that they manage to pick your brain, really pick your brain, with not many difficult components and with not flashy or, I don't know, super duper components or, you know, large game boards or whatever. Just a bunch of few cards. They're not that many, I mean, they're just a few cards, it's not even a big deck. A few cards, a few meeples, which are the Rune Masters, and it gives you a very thinky abstract strategy game. I love abstract strategy games that make you think twice and 3 times before you play your movement and place your card or place your meeple. And this is one of them. It really delivers exactly what it promises, a very thinky abstract game with minimum rules. You've seen the rules, it's very, very simple, but what matters is where you place the card, which combination of runes you collectively get together by your placement in order to potentially control higher and higher area of same color runes in order to get that many victory points at the end. And overall, I think it's a very unique back and forth between 2 players, which lasts around 10 minutes, and then you can immediately have another session. Extremely satisfied. I knew nothing about it, and I'm really happy that this game we cross paths with this little gem. This is Rune. I highly recommend it and you check it out, because if you like abstract strategy games, this is a must-have for 2 players. I loved it. This was Rune.